Hello, everybody. I am back after a couple of weeks, almost. I hope, I'm obviously off for the holidays. I hope everybody had a great Christmas and a great Happy New Year, and everybody stays safe out there, I hope. And I am back to do more videos. So the next one I'm going to do here is one that I was actually sort of recommended by a friend of mine after I watched Mad God. This is one that he actually gave me himself, and this is The Spine of Night. The Spine of Night is an animated fantasy horror film that came out back in 2021 by directors Philip Gellert and Morgan Galen King. And The Spine of Night is basically, I would say, the best way to describe this film is it's like an animated anthology, sort of. Kind of like if anybody's familiar with heavy metal, almost. Because people will definitely get heavy metal vibes watching this movie, almost. Basically, the story is about a man who, ambitious young man. Yeah, I'm going to just read this off here. Give me a second. I'm trying to adjust. Here we go. An ambitious young man who steals forbidden knowledge from a sacred plant, and he falls to its darker temptations, and in so doing, unleashes ages of suffering onto mankind. As his power grows over the years, it falls to people of different ilk and culture to attempt to stop him. And among those who stand against him are a daring tomb robber, star-crossed lovers, a maniacal necromancer, winged assassins, and an undying guardian. So yeah, the movie has sort of a medieval feel to it, so yeah, and of course it has the anthology setting, much like heavy metal, but also the animation style is more akin to stuff that Ralph Bakshi has done. And obviously the filmmakers were obviously very influenced by Ralph Bakshi, because if anybody had seen any of his earlier films, like, Lord of the Rings, Fire and Ice, imagine if those two were to be put together and were to be given a more violent and brutal feel, then add the dose of heavy metal, and you basically get this movie here. This is definitely an animated film. While, it's animated, it is obviously not a kiddie film. Much like Mad God, it is unlike Mad God, which I think the visuals basically tell the story. At least, the visuals, at least The Spine of Night actually has a story to unfold with its anthology feel. But once again, it's one of those films that basically, after watching it, you just kind of want to ask the question, what the hell did I just watch? Kind of movie. Sort of like Mad God. That's the kind of movie this is. I mean, there are some animation and visuals in this movie that are just even beyond anything I'd ever get a chance to see. And basically, the animation is done via hand-drawn and rotoscope. That's something that, is not very common nowadays with animated movies, since, Disney and Pixar and just about any other animated film is either done completely by CGI or anything else. But hand-drawn and rotoscope, that's the stuff Ralph Bakshi usually does. So, and again, even with that being said, there's some stuff in this film that, again, you just don't see too often occur in animated movies, or unless it's anything like in Japanese anime. Like a giant eyeball opening up in some guy's chest and abdomen. Literally. You actually see that happen. And of course, like I said, not for the faint of heart, because this is actually a very violent and brutal movie. Very, very brutal, very graphic, very gory. Oh yeah. Definitely on a level of, say, heavy metal, pretty much. But hey, don't let that deter you for anybody that actually is interested in wanting to see this. But I strongly recommend that, this is an animated film for adults, not for kids. So remember that. Yeah, it does have a pretty solid cast of voice actors. I mean, you got Richard E. Grant, who had been in a few things. Lucy Lawless, of course, best known as Xena, Warrior Princess, and was also Ruby in Ash vs. Evil Dead. Joe Manganiello, he had been in a few things. Probably a lot of people know him as Flash Thompson from Spider-Man. As far as I know he had done many, many other things besides that. So, but the interesting thing I definitely got to say about this movie is the two filmmakers, Philip Gellert and Morgan Galen King. These two guys have been trying to get this thing made for close to 7 years. The animation, the illustrations, the rotoscope live action filming that they had to do, where they filmed the action. Well, if anybody doesn't understand that rotoscope animation, it's basically animation drawn over live action, where they filmed the live action scenes first, and then they did the illustrations and the animation above the live action, and that's how they achieved that effect. Fans of Ralph Bakshi will understand rotoscope animation way more. So, but yeah, Ralph Bakshi was known for doing rotoscope in almost every movie he did. So the movie was released in last year, not last year, but the year before, 2021. Sorry, because now we're in 2023. It was released on Shudder, I believe, and ultimately got released on Blu-ray by RLJE Films. And yeah, it has the certified Rotten Tomatoes fresh. It's got like a 81 or 82 on there. So yeah, it got a pretty solid ranking on the site. Yeah, and it did receive rave reviews by many critics. So like sometimes I like when critics write on the top here, like, yeah, IO9 called it one of the sickest, coolest, most mind-bending animated films we've seen, and many others. So yeah, I'm going to talk about the Blu-ray. I do have the cover sleeve here, which is pretty cool. This is the actual poster artwork, I believe. This was one of the poster arts for Spine of Night, so that's pretty neat. It also has a reversible sleeve. Yeah, inside here's the Blu-ray. Here's the Blu-ray, which is pretty cool. Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to get the sunlight to reflect on. Trying to get the light to reflect better. Yeah, this here is the sort of like it's sort of like a 30. It's like a promo code to use on Shudder. So I don't have a Shudder account, so I was thinking about it though. Yeah, so inside the sleeve here is the reversible sleeve. This is the same as the cover itself, which is as the cover sleeve, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I'm actually glad a lot of Blu-rays are starting to do this now. Like Shout Factory and Arrow have done this for many of their releases, where they would put the same artwork as the cover sleeve, but then they would also give us the original poster art on the inside, which actually I kind of like this a lot better, because it definitely gives the film, it definitely makes the movie. I mean, it feels more attuned to the movie than the actual poster art, than the artwork on the cover, though. As for the video quality on the Blu-ray, honestly, Spine of Night looks pretty good, actually, in high def. I'm impressed. I mean, for an animated film of this quality, you'd think that the animation was going to look terrible, but honestly, I liked the animation style that this movie has. Because I'm more akin to the older stuff than to the newer stuff. So I think this movie looks beautiful in high def. The colors look amazing. The detail is amazing. I mean, I feel like many times I feel like I'm watching a Ralph Bakshi movie. I really do. I would say out of 5 stars for the video, I'd probably give it a 4.5 out of 5. That's how good it looks. As for the audio, once again, it sounds pretty good. It sounds just as good as it looks. All the sound effects, all the dialogue comes out very well. I mean, everything. And the video is presented in 178 widescreen, yeah. And the audio, well, there's only one audio track, and it's DTS 5.1, so that's all you get. But it sounds good. And there's subtitles too, which is nice. So the audio out of 5 stars, I'd also give it a 4.5. As for the bonus features, well, not really a lot on here. I mean, this is I wouldn't say it's a bare bones disc, and it's really not, but RLJE Films, yeah, they're kind of, some of their releases are kind of up and down with their bonus features, but for this one, this is actually not a bad batch of material. But basically, the making of is it's almost a half hour long, and it's a very comprehensive look at the making of the movie, and it offers a wealth of material behind the scenes on the making of the film. Obviously, interviews with the 2 directors, Philip Gillett and Morgan Galen King, as they talk about the movie, talk about the massive epic story to get the movie made, and yeah, like I said, it took them almost 7 years to get this movie launched off the ground. It originally started as an animated short before it eventually got made as a feature-length movie, and also included our 2 short films called Exordium and Mongrel, both of these movies. In fact, I believe one of these films was the original short that this movie is based on. And I think it was Exordium. I think this was the original short that this movie was originally made after before they decided to go in a different direction. But yeah, both of these animated shorts feature the same rotoscope animation style as Spine of Night, so it obviously, you can definitely tell where these two filmmakers got their inspiration. Yeah, Morgan Galen King in the documentary, he talks a lot about his inspirations, where he got the inspiration to come up with Spine of Night. Obviously, he was inspired by obviously by Ralph Bakshi and the works of Arthur Rankin Jr. and Jules Bass. He actually said that one of the first animated films he ever laid eyes on was The Hobbit, and eventually watching Lord of the Rings, and eventually other stuff Ralph Bakshi did, and then eventually he watched Heavy Metal, and that's what gave him the big inspiration to come up with the concept and story for this movie. So yeah, even though there's not really a lot of bonus materials on the disc here, what's on here though is definitely way better than, I mean, this is definitely one of the better documentaries about an animated film I've ever seen. So I would say for the extras, out of 5 stars, I would say a 2.5 at the most, because that documentary alone definitely is a worthy extra to be on the disc. And the short films definitely make a nice follow-up to go with it as well. I would say for the movie itself, out of 5 stars, I would probably give the movie maybe a 4 out of 5. I mean, honestly, it's definitely worth watching for fans that are into like darker animated films that have like, more brutal and more interesting feel than most other animated movies. But like I said, I have to warn people, this is definitely not a kiddie film. It is not. It's also, there are many parts of this movie that are definitely not for the faint of heart, so definitely be aware of that. But honestly, though, if you're into this kind of movies, I would say give this one a watch. Just don't let your kids watch it. It's chock full of gore, and it's chock full of blood and gore. It's got nudity. It's got everything. I mean, this movie has loads of stuff that little kids should not be watching. But if you're into these kinds of movies, I'd say give this one a watch. The animation, yeah, it's crude. It's not going to be like, like today's standards, like, what Disney and Pixar would do or what DreamWorks Animation would do. It's none of that stuff. But the animation is pretty impressive. I mean, for people that dig, like, the stuff that Ralph Bakshi has done. The video and audio are both stunning on the disc. The video is stunning. The audio is loud. And the extras, while there's not a lot, what's on here, though, is definitely worth checking out. And honestly, though, the movie definitely gets a recommendation for me, especially for anybody that likes these kind of films. So, overall, Spine of Night, definitely worth a look. So, this concludes the presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will continue to do more videos in the days to come. So until then, take care and be safe.